What do you know? We got this working. We have a quorum of 5 here. And so I think we're ready to call our meeting to order, our April 22nd Metro Management Council meeting. We have just a handful of people in the room, all Metro Management and county staff. And then myself and Commissioner Karski are here in the room as well. So got all 5 of us here. We have an agenda in front of us, and I think we're ready to get started. So we'll first see if there's anyone here for public input, which there isn't. I have to ask. So seeing none, we're going to move on to look at approving our minutes from March 25. Our March 25th meeting, I was absent, but Councilor Kiley and Commissioner Benega joined via Zoom. You have those minutes in your packet here. I'd ask if there's any changes or a motion to approve those.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, motion by Kiley and seconded by Karski to approve those. Any discussion on that? All right, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, those are approved, and we'll move on to item 4 on our agenda, which is our director's report from Scott. So Scott, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mayor.
First, I'd just like to say thank you to all of you, Mayor and council members, for your work in the public and keeping us safe during this time of
Mr.
COVID.
Mayor?
You bet.
He's really hard to hear. I mean, it's real hard to hear him.
Scott, you might want to come up and just talk directly.
I can try this. Is this any better? Christine, can you hear me?
Yeah, I mean, it's better, but
Okay, I'll try and speak real close to the
We'll
mic
talk
here.
loud and close to the mic, Christine.
thank you. I'm not even that old. I swear I've got good hearing.
Yeah.
So again, just wanted to thank all of you as community leaders for the work that you're doing in our communities in Minnehaha County to keep us safe as residents, safe as public safety, and appreciate all the time and countless meetings that you've done to make that happen for us. So keeping that in mind, we'll try and keep this meeting today as short as we can and be respectful of your time, because I know you're
Take
very
as long
busy.
as you need,
very
Scott.
busy.
Yep.
Okay, we'll start off with the director's report. The Family First Coronavirus Response Act, known as the FFCRA. We have enrolled in the paid sick leave portion of that, which allows for up to 80 hours of sick leave for our staff members. We did not adopt the 10-week expanded family and medical leave for various reasons. As a public safety entity, we count on our staff to be available, and they're very essential to our operations. So we weren't able to adopt that portion. But what I would like to say is, thus far, we've been very fortunate in our agency and have only used not even 70 hours yet for the whole entire staff. So we're keeping our staff safe and healthy, and thank goodness we haven't had to use this Family First Coronavirus Act to any extreme measure yet. So we're happy about that.
Great.
Some COVID-19 actions that we've taken at Metro Communications. We began by first saying, what do we need to do to make sure that our operations are consistent, are stable, and that we maintain a state of readiness. And what we did is we divided our operations into basically 3 report-to-work stations. We have a large room, which we normally refer to as our primary workspace. We have a smaller room, which we refer to as our call taker room. And then we have our backup center, which is over at Station 3, Fire Station 3. And what that did is it really assures us that we'll have plenty of workstations available should we come down with an illness within the workplace. It won't contaminate our entire operations. We'll be able to continue operations. So it's important for us to have that continuity of operations plan in play. In addition to that, we've done all kinds of actions as far as making sure that our staff have plenty of cleaners on hand, making sure we're taking out garbage regularly, making sure we're washing our hands, cleaning door handles, all those types of things that have been suggested over the past 2 months or so by CDC, as well as the messages that have been promoted publicly. So we've definitely taken heed to those warnings, if you will, and we've applied them, and I think it's proven that our workplace has maintained a stability that we need as being essential operations. So in addition,
Have you had any staff, Scott, express concerns? I mean, you guys have tight corridors in there, and sometimes some people are totally fine with their working environments right now, and some people are kind of skittish. And how's your team doing with things?
yes, we did have some concerns. We have some folks that maybe have some health conditions, that make them a little bit more vulnerable to this COVID-19. So we tried to accommodate the needs of those staff members, and fortunately with this smaller call-taking room, it seemed to be the best opportunity to have those individuals stay in that one room and have less exposure. So they've been very appreciative of the efforts that we've taken to try and protect them throughout this. So it's worked very well so far.
Great.
In addition to protecting our own staff, we have also been on the front line of making sure that we are protecting first responders and, of course, the public as well. But one of the things that we've done is we've used the Emerging Infectious Disease Screening Tool, which is a product that was available through our Emergency Medical Dispatch Program. And of course, we started with, have you had travel? Have you had shortness of breath? Problems breathing? Those types of questions. But that list of questions continued to expand as we encountered more obstacles in the COVID-19 battle. And one person that's really done a lot of work in that area and been on the front line of that is Justin Faber, who's sitting at the table right here today. And he has really spearheaded that as far as making sure that he is extracting as much information as possible from our CAD to make sure that we can provide for the safety of first responders. And it started out maybe a bit of a small task, and it has turned into a very large task to manage that data. So I'm extremely thankful for what he's done. He's put out daily emails to the REMSA group, who is also monitoring COVID-19, and this helps them strategize. It helps them see where there are problems within the community as far as being hot spots, if you will. So like I said, Justin's just done a phenomenal job of extracting that information, putting it into charts, putting it into diagrams, and be able to get that out to the public, or out to the responders that need it. So
That's great. Thanks, Justin.
the next thing on the list is good news. The South Dakota 911 Coordination Board announced a settlement in its litigation with NextGen, TCS, and Comtech. Those companies were involved in providing the previous 911 telephone system that we had prior to just the beginning of this year. And through that settlement, it will provide $200,000 in proceeds to be equally distributed amongst the 28 PSAPs in the state. And as a result of that, Metro received a payment for the amount of $7,142.86 that we can put into our funds. It just can't be used for anything phone related or anything that connects it to the CenturyLink contract, because they didn't want to have that affiliation there. So, but it is good news to receive a check in the mail.
It's interesting that they divided it equally instead of by, yeah, we're shaking our heads. And my perception of a few of these rural PSAPs is that the phone ringing in the sheriff's car. Am I far off on that?
Well, I think we're past those days. I think with the standards that the NextGen or the South Dakota 911 Coordination Board has put into play, we have some standards these days that that make it a requirement to have a PSAP, to have appropriate staffing, to have appropriate tools. So I think we're beyond that point, but nevertheless, it did draw some attention as far as whether it's equally split or, you know, based on population or those types of things.
Okay.
Okay, the last thing I have in a director's report is the leadership team which includes the coordinators, the deputy director, myself, business manager, Anna. We're working on a business plan for the next 5 years, and there's multiple reasons why we want to do that. One is to create a roadmap for our organization. Two is to present a financial picture of where we need to be 5 years from now. And three is to set some real goals for our agency. What do we want to achieve in the next 5 years? So we're working on that plan. It's going to take us some time, probably similar to what the SWAT did last year. We spent about 12 hours developing that, and I suspect we'll spend about 12 hours developing this business plan. But I hope to have that to you in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And, it just provides a really clear picture of where we need to go in the future with Metro Communications. So with that, being we just had a meeting here on March 25th, I left out all the details pertaining to calls for service, telephone calls and that sort of thing, because it's only been a month since we went through those numbers. So that is the end of the director's report.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Scott, appreciate it. We'll move on then to item 5, item we're going to need approval on. That's an agreement for EMS dispatch services with Patient Care Logistics. Scott?
Yes, and just a reminder, we'll have to do the roll call votes, being that we have folks on the phone with us today.
Got it.
This agreement before you is an agreement that started in 2015 as part of the city ambulance contract, and the affiliation with Metro is we take what are commonly referred to as transfer calls, where somebody needs to be transferred from a assisted living or a hospital or a clinic or something like that. That involves our agency to arrange for that ambulance to go to that location and then follow through with that transfer. In 2015, this contract started at a $5 rate to Metro Communications, and throughout the years, it has increased. In 2016 at $10, 2017 $15, 2018 $20, and that's where we're still at today, is $20. And we looked at the amount of time that we have into the process, as well as the fact that there hasn't been an increase in a period of time here. And we sat down with a staff member from Patient Care Logistics, and we negotiated what we both felt was a reasonable increase. And what that turned out to be is a 4% annual increase for the next 5 years. And so therefore, starting in May of this year, when this previous contract ends, that amount will go to $20.80. In 2021, it'll go to $21.63. And you can see in 2022 it's $22.50, 2023 is $23.40, and so forth, to the end of the contract in 2026 it'll be $25.31. So again, that generates about $55,000 a year in revenue for Metro Communications. So it's a fair amount of transfers. It's about I believe 150 transfers a month in the city and another 30 or so in the county. So it adds up. Both from a financial standpoint as well as a work point. So
Seems like that's a pretty sweetheart deal to go from $5 to $20 in 5 years. And now we're going up by a much smaller percentage. How was that originally set up, do you know?
I've heard some of the history on it, and I believe what maybe happened there is the fee was started way too low to begin with, at $5. And it was soon recognized by leadership at that point in time in city and county government that fee should be higher, which was also the reason why it increased drastically at $5 a year to go from $5 to $20 in a matter of 3-4 years. So.
Sure, okay.
If I may, Mr. Mayor.
You bet.
So was Metro doing this before 2015 and not charging at all? I mean, why are you involved in it anyway?
We are involved in it because of the contract that was created between the city of Sioux Falls and its ambulance service, which was Patient Care Logistics. We became involved in that respect because of the fact that we started doing the transfers for them at that time. Anna or anybody else that has more information than that, but that's my understanding of the history of it.
Got it.
Do you want more?
Counselor Kiley here.
Go ahead, Counselor.
I do recall
making this increase because we were going through budget presentations back probably actually in even in 14, and we had identified that, and then finally that was Mayor Huther was chairing the committee, but we did then make the motion as a group to looking into the increase of this fee, and I do believe that was the increase was based on what other markets are charging, and so I do recall this. I can't believe that it's already been 4 years ago, though.
I guess from my perspective, Counselor, it's not the what, but the why, and that's the puzzling part to me. Do we need to be involved in this process?
At this point, we do. My understanding is when somebody wants a transfer, whether it's a clinic or assisted living, whatever it might be, they would contact this number that feeds to an organization that is out of state, that's part of Patient Care Logistics, and then that organization works with Metro Communications to make that process occur. Justin is also heavily involved in this and has daily phone calls talking about those types of things, so he might be able to add some more information.
Yeah, so I think just to kind of clarify on why we're starting to do this now than what we did before, the previous ambulance provider, Rural Metro, we did station-based dispatching. So when we would get a 911 call for an ambulance, we would dispatch the station. We wouldn't know how many ambulances they had or which ambulance was going to be responding to the call until they were already going. When we switched to patient care, it's system status management. So Metro controls all of the ambulances in the system. And so from a transfer perspective, the way we see it is the patient's already at a hospital. They're already receiving care. So if we have one ambulance available and only one, then we hold the transfer.
Okay.
And we wait until we have more than one so we can still cover an emergency if it happens. And so we have to know about the transfers to be able to hold them, to know that we're not wasting resources. And so that's kind of the start of, well, we have to take them, we have to control them, but it's not really a 911 call, so hence the contract for privatized service.
Okay. So, and the reason I'm asking the question is, I mean, I don't think we should be doing this and losing money on it. So that's my concern, you know.
Which was the concern of the $5.
Yeah.
Was, are we losing money
It
at that
was.
rate? And the answer really was yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions on the phone on this item? All right, then we just need to take a vote to approve this contract. We're going to do a roll call vote on it.
I'd move approval.
Second, Kylie?
All right, motion approved by Karski and seconded by Kylie. Counselor Karski?
Aye.
Or Commissioner? Sorry, I'm going to probably call you
I've heard
Counselor
the
every
other
time.
one, so I'm
I'll
good.
just go last names. Karski's an aye. Kylie?
Yes.
Erickson?
Yes.
Benninga?
Aye.
Tenhaken is an aye. That's 5-0 vote on that, approving that. We'll move on then to item 6, which is March financials.
Okay, I'm going to ask Business Manager Raker to come up and go through the financials, and then also on that last item, Mayor, we'll just need your signature on that
Got it.
document. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Let me know if I'm not speaking loud enough or if I need to get closer to the mic. You have your March financials. They are on the web, and they were also handed out for those in attendance today. And so this is our financial status as of March 31st. There are 3 documents within the financial report, and the first is a balance sheet. Looking at the balance sheet, cash is down since March of 2019. That is, again, expected because we have been spending some of our reserve. It's reflective in great part due to planned use of cash reserve, but it's also offset by timely receipt of 911 surcharges in 2020. In 2019, the surcharges were delayed and we didn't receive them until April. And you'll see that when we get to the later report. You'll also notice that the accounts receivable has increased by about $7,000, and that's due in great part to increased audio requests, which is just increased activity, and that's something we really don't have control over, how many attorneys request audio requests. And then also it's reflective of a larger budget, a larger expenses in 2020, and so the PSAP fee increased to the city of Brandon. I think I'll jump down to accounts receivable and, to accounts payable. Jumping down to accounts payable, you can see that the payable is about $20,000 less in 20 than it was in 19. And this is really just reflective of the timing of payments. It's also reflective of the fact that in 2019, there were 3 pay periods in March, and the last was March 29th. And so there were larger expenses for retirement and some of our benefit-related expenses than in 2020. So it's reflective of 2 pay periods this year versus 3 in last year. Any questions regarding the balance sheet? Is there anything you'd like me to drill down on that you have any questions about?
Well, the pension fund balance, what's the big delta there?
The pension fund balance, so all the entries that you see that talk about net pension asset, pension deferred outflows, those types of things, those are all our year-end adjusting entries for GASB 68. And that has to do with our share of assets and liabilities under the South Dakota retirement system based on our staff, our contributions, and our potential retirement payouts for our staff as they age and receive benefits.
So the fact that March last year we were at 750 and we're at 350, it's just a timing issue?
Yeah, but it's also reflective of the health and the changes at the state level. So you would probably see something similar on any organization who's a participant because it's a reflective of the health of SDRS.
Got it.
And where their assets are and how they're managing those assets.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about the balance sheet? All right. So on the second page, we're looking at the current year expenses in a summary format, and we're comparing those to the prior year revenue and expenses for the prior year. So we're looking at 2020 as compared to 2019. And I mentioned earlier that surcharges in 2019 were 0 in the month through the month of March, and that's because the payment for January surcharges were just delayed at the state level, and we didn't receive them until April. And so that is a drastic change, obviously, in 20, but it was just one of those oddities that normally wouldn't happen. Normally, we receive those payments each month. You see the increase in city and county share as budgeted. As far as services have increased, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, that the PSAP fees are greater this year due to an increased budget. And audio requests have ticked up in the first 3 months of the year. So those are the major changes in the services category. The reduction in other revenue is due in great part to the change in interest earnings. And I think you just have to understand, just like all of us personally, interest is going to be an interesting thing to track this year. I think we're going to see the interest rates change on our checking account and on our investments fluctuate throughout the year. Even just from January to February to March, the interest rate changed between each of those months, more so than they normally do. So the majority of that change is in interest. Comparing personnel expenses from 2019 to 2020, it is a $91,000 increase. Now, a significant amount of that is the approval of additional FTEs as part of the 2020 budget, but that's offset by the fact that we're more fully staffed this year. Remember last year at this time we were without a director, so we'd been 3 months without director salaries by this point. And then we had additional vacancies last year. So if you broke this down, our salaries have increased by 83,000, which is reflective of additional FTEs and being more fully staffed. But our overtime is down by 18,000, which again is reflective of being more fully staffed this year. And the addition of those FTEs means that we have less overtime. And the temp staff is relatively neutral change, and that's because we had those temp staff that we were utilizing last year, and we continue to utilize them at a similar level as in 2019. And again, that offsets the cost of overtime, and it's a very good deal for us financially and for those temp staff to keep them active during this period of time. Benefits have increased from last year to this year, but honestly, that is reflective of the increased FTEs more so than the actual insurance rates. Dropping down to other operating, comparing 2020 with 2019, you can see many of these lines are relatively consistent. The professional services increase is due in great part to the purchase of testing tools for our recruitment process. We purchase them every couple years, and this was the year to purchase them, so that was anticipated. Dropping down to repairs, you can see a significant increase. Last year at this time, we were still under warranty for the first several months of the year for CAD that had been implemented in 2018. And this year we have, months of maintenance costs that we remitted to the city of Sioux Falls. So that's about 10,000 right there, and the balance of it is just timing of miscellaneous expenses and repairs and some other maintenance contracts. Dropping down to supplies, that looks like it's significantly less, and it really is. Last year, there was a scheduled replacement of Microsoft Office for our computers, and that's about a $10,000 item every several years. So that's reflected in the $35,000 in 2019. And then another $12,000 difference is computers and UPSs that were purchased by this time in 19. This year we attempted to purchase them. We had a really difficult time getting them delivered, and they were finally delivered in April, so you'll be seeing that expense in April for our replacement plan to keep our equipment top-notch for our center. Dropping down to utilities, there's about a $9,000 drop. That is related to the 911 trunk lines that are going to be disconnected, sometimes called CAMA. And we have received March bills, but CenturyLink has advised us to wait to pay that pending a credit. And so that is the $9,400 difference there. Any questions about comparison to prior year?
Any question on the phone? No, ma'am.
Don't have any.
All right.
Down here.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the last spreadsheet is a comparison of our current year budget to actuals. And we show an adjusted budget for the actual period we're reporting, but we also compare it to the annual budget so you can see both figures. And that's something, as a council, that was requested some time ago. So starting at the top with 911 surcharges, you can see that we're $3,200 or $3,300 under budget. Something that we have noticed is that statewide lines are very flat, but we are growing. So the population and the number of lines that we are seeing through the city of Sioux Falls in Lincoln County and Minnehaha County has been increasing ever so slightly, while the state is remaining fairly flat. And so what that means is our traditional 911 surcharges that flow through Minnehaha County for the city and for the county are growing, while our incentive funds that are a pie of the statewide pool are remaining fairly flat or even pretty stagnant. Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I remember this conversation, excuse me, 3 years ago when I was on this board. There's no way to tie a phone to a county or a PSAP, is there? I mean, the state gets the revenue, but they really don't know where that phone is at. I mean, it could have a 612 area code or whatever. Has that been figured out?
Yeah, so with landlines, they're tied to the physical address, and so GIS is super important as city boundaries and annexations take place to stay on top of remitting those to the appropriate city if it's outside a county or the appropriate county. And City of Sioux Falls is not the only city across the state who extends into another county, so it's not unique to us. As far as cell phone lines, those are tracked by the contract that is set up and how that billing address and the location address is identified. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're actually residing there. You could have a college student in Texas, but if your home address is listed as Minnehaha County or Garrettson or Sioux Falls, all of those surcharges are going to be remitted to Minnehaha County. And the opposite is true for a parent living in Lubbock who has children maybe attending at USF. So it's all about making sure that that contract is accurate. So if somebody does move and they don't update their billing address immediately, it's possible they might not flow correctly, but it's a pretty it's a pretty basic but a pretty complex system all at the same time, if you know what I mean.
So if a company, let's not to pick on anybody, but Sanford, for example, they're domiciled out of North Dakota, and if they use that for their address, we don't get the benefit of the 911 surcharge?
I wouldn't necessarily say that's true. I think it's going to depend on how those bills are set up. So if they have a bill, or if they have phone services at each of their clinics and they're set up independently, I would think that it would be listed as the location of that landline. What has happened in recent...
Not landlines, cell phones.
Oh, well, if they're providing cell phones, yeah, that might be interesting. Again, it would depend on how it's flowing. The other thing that's occurred in recent years is you're seeing more VoIP for business lines. And as you see that, it's remitted based on the maximum number of calls that can be thread through that pipe at any point in time. And it's more efficient, which means if you have businesses who exceeded the 100 lines per business in the past, but they're now able to be more efficient with like a T1 or something like that, they might fall below that 100 now. So you might see some lower changes there. But we continue to see a drop in landlines, an increase in VoIP, and an increase in cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
And something we have talked about recently is we don't know what's going to happen right now. In the economy, tough times of 2008, 2009, we saw a lot of changes in the line counts. We saw landlines drop, cell phones increase, a lot of movement as people were trying to determine, how do I make my finances work at home? Have we seen all that move yet? I don't know. Might we see some of those changes? Entirely possible.
Okay.
But it will take time. We've only got January right now. The other thing to keep in mind is we budget almost 2 years ahead. So we prepared our 2021 budget based on 2019 data. And we factor it out based on the growth we've seen over the last few years. And so this 2020 budget was based on 2018 data because that's all we had at the time we did the budget. So it's always challenging, and we do our best to track that growth. But when you're tracking it that far out, you're going to have a bit of a challenge. Any other questions about the cell phones? 911? Okay. Moving on with budget to actual audio recordings, again, are up based on what we budgeted, and that's just simply that we've seen an uptick in activity from attorneys needing audio recordings. Interest is down. You can see the actual dollars there. That's just reflective of the interest rates. Dropping down to personnel services. Again, you can see that we are under budget. We're actually down 2 staff right now, and we're in the process of hiring for a May 26th start date. So we're saving a little bit there. Overtime, we're doing well, but we're doing well because temps are filling in that gap, and you can see the difference there in the adjustment. And there you can see also, if you drop down to health insurance, that we're under budget. Part of that is due to a few vacancies, but really it's due to we were able to really negotiate some great rates for health insurance for our staff, for health, vision, and dental. Dropping down to other operating, again, in recruitment, you'll see that we are a little over budget, but that's due to purchasing tests, which will hold us for a period of time. Maintenance contracts, again, we talked about the fact that our CAD software is reflected here. Part of this, what's going on here, is we haven't been billed yet for our March through February. It's a March through February cycle, and we just haven't been billed yet by the city, and they're usually pretty good about waiting a little later in the year just to help us with cash flow. And so my guess is you'll see this grow until we get that bill. I think I'll drop down to uniforms. Uniforms have been ordered, but the bill didn't arrive till April, so that's just the timing of a bill there, but there will be an expense. And it's about $1,800, so we are doing well in that area. And then dropping down to dispatch communications, again, you'll see $38,000 versus budget of $49,000. And that is, we're sitting on that 911 trunk line or the Camel line. We're waiting to pay that bill until CenturyLink completes their adjustment. At the time we did our budget for 2020, at that point, we had been told that there was no way to determine that those trunk lines would be transferred over, and so we budgeted the whole year because it was a responsible thing to do. And we're excited that they were able to make this change, so it's going to help us out. Any questions? Any questions for me?
Any questions on the phone for Anna on the March financials?
None for me.
None here.
Not here either.
All right, I'd look for a motion to approve these.
Move to approve, Erickson.
Second, Benninga.
All right, motion by Erickson, seconded by Benninga to approve the March financials. We'll take a vote on that. Erickson?
Yes.
Kylie?
Yes.
Benninga?
Aye.
Karski?
Aye.
Tenhaken, yes. All right, we'll move on to item 7, which is our 2021 budget. And we will go through that, and we'll take a vote on this at the end as well. Scott, go ahead, man.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Last council meeting that we had, the Metro Management Council meeting, I went through a PowerPoint presentation. There's probably no need to go through that PowerPoint presentation again today unless there's something specific in there that you'd like me to address. The main content of that presentation was an increase in temporary salaries line, or actually the establishment of a temporary salaries line, and then also a $6,000 software product that would be a capital improvement type project. So that was really the increases for our 2021 budget. Looking more from a numerical perspective, the sheet that you have in front of you today, I think what I'll do is just highlight some of the changes or some of the increases, if you will. So from 2019 to 2020, and I should back up also that this plan is a plan that we have discussed with the city finance team on an annual basis. We sit down and visit with the city finance team. So this has been something that they have been exposed to and that they are in agreement with. So going from 2019 to 2020, you can see there was a 25% increase with the city and county funding for this particular year that we're in. That same kind of an increase is projected to happen in our 2021 budget, or at least being proposed. And then in 2022, you can see it's 15%. I'm on line 3 as you're going across this chart. And then as you drop down towards the bottom of this chart, you'll see it says 2023, 2024, 2025. Again, the third line on that chart shows a 13% increase for 2023. Again, in city and county support. 2024, 9% increase in city county support, and 2025, a 9% increase in city county support. So you might ask, why is it? Why is it that we're seeing a 25% increase in 2020 and another 25% increase in city county support for 2021. The main reason for that is in 2019, you approved for us to have 4 additional staff members, full-time staff members in 2020. So that in itself works out to be about $267,437 when you include all the benefits and so forth. And then also the increase is to continue to support our operations like Anna just mentioned. Surcharges are they're just remaining flat, and each year as we go forward, that's going to cover less and less of our operational budget. This year, I believe we're right at about 51%. Next year, it'll be 49%, and the actual numbers are covered in here as you go forward, but it'll become less and less of our budget to the point that by 2025, I guess this sheet doesn't show that, does it, Anna? But it will be less, probably more like about 42% of our budget at that point is covered by surcharges. So what that does is it requires us to ask you as city and county to provide that additional support to us. And the third piece that this does is it maintains our cash revenues at about a 15% rate of our overall budget. So really, these increases are accomplishing three main things, which was the 4 employees that we received this year, supporting our operations as surcharges go down and expenses go up, and it maintains that cash reserve balance at 15%. We want to be very conservative going into this 2021 budget request. We understand the situation that could arise for city and county with the economy as it is. So we continue to want to ask for just those 2 items that I mentioned, the software project at $6,000 and then a temporary staffing line at $73,000. You might ask, well, where does $73,000 come from? That's the expense of a full-time employee. But like I mentioned in the PowerPoint, we feel that this provides us opportunity, it provides us flexibility, it provides us an opportunity for our employees that might need to go to a part-time or a temporary position for some reason. It gives us the ability to retain that well-trained employee. So there's just numerous reasons why this is beneficial to our agency, and including the fact that temporary staff are much more cost-effective, if you will, or provide savings from overtime versus a temporary staff member. And as we talked about before, our temporary staff do not have any benefits beyond the salary itself. So there's obviously savings in that area as well. So that's important to us to try and continue forward with that request of the temporary staff as well as that software product. I want to point out too, in the amount of cash reserve that we have, by having these increases, you'll see that this past year in 2019, we needed $328,000 to help cover the cost of our budget that we withdrew or decrease that cash reserve. In 2020, that number jumps up to $530,769. But because of this increase that we're proposing, we'll use less cash reserves in 2021. It actually drops back down to $96,000. 2022, it's at $103,000, and I'm looking at line 31 for those figures for each year. And then on line 43, you can see that in 2023, that number drops to $78,000. 2024, $100,000. So what it does is it allows us, even though you're supporting us at a higher level in 2020 and 2021, that'll allow for us to use less reserves, which helps build or maintain that level of 15% reserves. And that number this year is at $745,000 reserves, but in 2021 it drops to $700,000. In 2022, it drops to $653,000, and then it's pretty steady from 2023 at $634,000, 2024 $595,000, and then 2025 $554,000. So, again, those numbers projected out 5 years. Taking all those things into consideration is the reason that we're proposing again a 25% increase in support from city and county for 2021 to help us manage this budget. Are there any specific questions in here? I know there's a lot of information in this budget sheet, but I tried to just highlight the areas that, will be most impacting.
No, thank you, Scott. I know you went through the kind of the grits of it a little bit more last meeting. And I assume you mentioned this, but the city finance team, Tom Huber, helped work with you on this and is comfortable with these projections and this cash plan and.
Yes, last year when I came on board, we met with Tom Huber then, and then this spring, we went back and met with Tom Huber, and the numbers stayed pretty steady from last year to this year, and we felt that this was still a good, valid proposal going forward.
Okay, great, thanks. Anyone on the phone? You guys have questions for the proposed 21 budget?
I don't have any questions, but I do know that our challenge is that the surcharges just simply are not keeping pace with our costs and expenses. They've, it's gone over just since 2008. It was pretty close, but since that time, it's only it's less than half of our overall budget. So unfortunately, that puts more of a burden on the city and the county, which it makes the agreement that we just ratified even more important in terms of what we can collect from transfers. Because otherwise, that's just going to be more money that's going to have to come out of city and county budgets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The challenge that we face too is so much of our budget, 85% of our budget is personnel, and then approximately 13% of it is contractual obligations for equipment and maintenance. So that doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room.
Mm-hmm.
You're down to about 3%.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Karski, do you have a comment?
Yeah, and if you address this, I apologize, Scott. 21 and 22, any personnel growth factored into there?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't address that. In 2021, I am not asking for a full-time person, but I'm asking for that temporary salary instead. But yes, in 2022 and 2023 and 2024, we would ask for one additional staff member in each one of those years. And that's noted over here on line 16 to the far left side of the page. It says there's 4 approved in 2020 and
thank
then
you.
1 each year, 22 through 24.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the phone?
Other than that, I do appreciate Scott thinking out of the box in terms of the 4 attempts and how that provides us with the coverage of a full-time equivalent, but saves us greatly in terms of paying benefits.
All right, I'd entertain a motion to approve this, the budget.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, motion by Kylie, seconded by Karski on that. Any other questions or discussion before we vote here? All right, we'll take a roll call vote. Karski?
Aye.
Kylie? Yes. Erickson?
Yes.
Benninga?
Aye.
Tenhaken is an aye. That is a 5-0 pass. All right, I don't believe we have any business that qualifies or is needed for exec session today, unless anyone on the phone feels otherwise. So if not, we're going to move to adjourn. I'd look for a motion, a second on that.
Move to adjourn, Erickson.
Second, Kylie.
All right, Erickson with the motion, seconded by Kylie. We'll just take a voice vote on that. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Safe, everybody.
Thank you to Monty and Anna, too, for getting I know this is a pain. We're having to figure things out on the fly with these meetings, so I know it's a lot more work than it looks like, so thank you for your help.
Very much.
All right, have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
You too, thank you.
Yeah, good night.
Thank you.